A very warm welcome to our viewers in this exclusive edition of Special Talk. I'm your host, CHONGTHAM, AMRITA, and today I will be speaking to our special guest in this edition of Special Talk. Our guest is Sri and IBUNGOCHOUBI, who is the Executive Editor for Manipur Mail and also serving as the Secretary General of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum. And I would like to take a chance to welcome our special guest for today's episode, who will be joining us today from online media from Dimapur. Welcome to the Special Talk, Oja IBUNGOCHOUBI.
Good morning, Amrita. Nice meeting you after a long time again.
Yes, a very good morning to you. And Oja, first of all, about the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum that you are serving as the Secretary General as well. Could you please briefly tell our viewers about the vision and the mission, and also what are the events that you are planning to conduct on behalf of the forum in the coming days?
Good morning, Amrita. I would like to thank you for inviting me to your program. The Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum is, I would say, it's still in its infant stage. We are very young. The initiatives came in the year 2017, and we had a grand meeting at Guwahati. A lot of people representing civil organizations, and in fact thousands of people gathered in Guwahati when the formation of this Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum was initiated. Unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, some of the activities, many of the things could not be progressed upon.
Okay.
However, very fortunately, 2 years ago, the annual general body meeting under the convention of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum was hosted by the Nagaland Indigenous Peoples Forum, which is also the state chapter of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum. We had a very successful program which was held in Dipupar in Dimapur. Representatives from almost all the states participated in the convention, the conference in Dipupar, and we had a very historic declaration which is called the Dipupar Declaration, among which one of the major declaration issues was preserving and conserving the indigenous traditional values. This was one of the important part of the declaration, following which we have continued to organize programs, conduct certain discourses. In our last executive meeting in Panagar, we decided to conduct an essay writing competition for the youths.
Okay.
For the entire northeastern region. Very fortunately, the theme for the World Indigenous Day, which was declared last year and which will go on for another year, the theme is Indigenous Youths as Agents of Change for Self-Determination.
Okay.
Thereby, the global population or the entire world, they feel that the youth should be empowered in the way for the promotion and in fact conserving the indigenous values, the native values. So we also decided to have this essay writing competition for the youth. And presently, according to the United Nations, in our time, the age limit for the youth used to be below 33.
Yes.
The new age limit for the youth is from 15 to 24. So the essay writing competition, which will be held for the northeastern region, which we have already circulated information, is for the northeastern region for the youth, for the age group of 15 to 24. So we have announced the date and the time. All the children, all the youth from all the states, they are invited to take part in this essay writing competition. And primarily the concern is our youth should be empowered to understand their native, indigenous, traditional values. Henceforth, we thought of conducting this essay writing competition, Amrita.
Okay, thank you for your opening comment. I think an essay writing competition targeted to the youth is a very ingenious idea because, and as you mentioned that the age bar, as the age group that belongs to the youth have now changed, that earlier it used to be under 33 years and now it is within the age bracket of 15 to 24 years, which is rather young in fact. And also this essay competition that the forum will be conducting, as you mentioned that it has been declared. What the themes will the essay competition will be focused on, and can you please briefly highlight regarding how the youth, when participating in this essay competition, how they will learn to appreciate the indigenous culture? Do you think that they will finally be able to appreciate our traditions and the rich cultures that we have?
Amrita, when we were discussing among our colleagues in all the states, we arrived, or we deduced from the very concept of the World Indigenous Day Forum, and the topic for the competition is the role of youth in preserving and promoting the indigenous and native socio-cultural traditions amidst the modern world. Okay. I will also send you a copy of this very notice, which I suppose I would be very happy if you kindly carry this as a news item for the people, for your viewers in Manipur and the entire region, since yours is a virtual news. The competition would be submitted to the district or the state chapters on or before May 20, and it should be handwritten. And we would be nominating all the state chapter coordinators today and tomorrow. So all the youth who are at this age group should write in his or own handwriting, and we would be announcing where to submit. And as I would be saying, we have a very small cash prize as an incentive. We are giving 40,000 rupees for the first prize, 30,000 rupees for the second prize, and 20,000 rupees for the third prize. And we also have 11 consolation prizes. The prizes will be distributed on the 9th of August, which is the World Indigenous Day. We will be informing the venue. It will be in any state capital of the 7 states. We would be deciding very soon. We would be giving a certificate. We would be giving a trophy along with the cash prize. All the winners will be invited during the program of the World Indigenous Day, and the prize distribution will also be held on that very day. And for the benefit of the viewers and for you, Amrita, we have some parameters for the essay writing competition. Okay. The life cycle from birth to death. We have many traditions as indigenous people. So the writers are expected to write their own, his or her traditional cultural traditions right from birth till death, which is called the life cycle. And
just to interrupt just for 1 second, IBUNGOCHOUBI, so this essay writing competition will be held in English medium, is it right?
Yes, sir, that would be in English, and that should be handwritten.
Handwritten essay, and what are the, can you please highlight the number of words that are required, and also the themes that they need to touch upon?
Yeah, we are expecting the writers to at least write about 1,500. Though we have set the minimum 1,300, we would like to request the writers to make a complete essay of 1,500 and not beyond. Of course, there are some limitations, a couple of words here and there, but we are expecting at least at an average of 1,500 for the participation to write. And our focus is, as a youth today, in your birth ceremony, in your marriage ceremony, in your death ceremony, or whatever the traditional cultural traditions that you see around in your community, those are vanishing today in the modern world. So as we say that how as a youth you will promote, preserving is okay, but how as a youth you will involve yourself, promote your cultural tradition amidst the modern world. Suppose, Amrita, for a young girl today, for a young boy today, when you get married, you know, the so-called the traditional values that our ancestors used to have it as a part of the indigenous traditions, or which is, we are proud of that culture. that is being dominated because of the modern world. You have the television, you have the camera, the makeup. Of course, you can have that, but in our life cycle from birth till death, an indigenous people is identified by their traditional values and their culture. So that is being threatened by the modern world. I think that is the very theme of the World Indigenous Day by the UN. Now, we would request the writers to focus on how, as a youth, he or she can play a part in his personal life or her personal life to promote. That is the focus, so that at least the children are aware. Say, for example, as a young person, he would be seeing that the modern world has captured, and now we would be happy if the young children today, if they can identify what are the vanishing cultures, in what way they can preserve. I think this is how we are looking at it. They should not only write what are our cultures, what are our traditional values. They should write as a young person how and why I should play as a key person to initiate, to be proactive, to preserve and promote. This is how we are looking at. So at least they understand, what is the traditional value of an indigenous people, Amrita.
Yes, IBUNGOCHOUBI, you just mentioned how these indigenous cultures and traditions, they are also our identity. So could you please highlight how the indigenous cultures and traditions shape our identity, and also in context with the northeastern region of India, which has about 500 plus of so many sub-tribes and sub-tribes with their unique traditions. And we in the northeast Indian tribes, sub-tribes, the indigenous people have been living in harmony for ages. So could you just highlight how these age-old years and years long, thousands years old traditions shape our identity even today?
Our concern as indigenous people, the very formation of this Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum is also because of an alarming situation. As I would say that the international border that so-called the Arunachal Pradesh, the Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram, Assam, the international border that we share with our neighbors, which is a foreign country or countries, I think is about 1,600 kilometers. And if we look at the entire boundary, including Nepal and among other things, it comes to about 5,000 kilometers. Our concern today is Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura, even Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Assam. We are bordering with Myanmar, we are bordering with Bangladesh. The political instability in these countries will have an impact in our own respective states. The massive influx of illegal migrants or immigrants who have infiltrated into these very border states. Today, the Puris in Tripura, they have become minorities. And we do not have a system how to check these systematic, because our borders are porous, our borders are not manned properly. People find it very to come into our states, right from Arunachal to Manipur to Mizoram to Nagaland, Meghalaya, Assam, whatsoever the border is, which is taking away the opportunities of our indigenous people in terms of economic development, in terms of political right. In fact, the outside people are making a difference in the democratic profile, in the decision making. The population that has come into the respective states, their population is changing the process, depriving the opportunities of the indigenous people. This was one of the alarming issues that pushed into the formation or the institution of this Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum. We have our own inherent problems among ourselves. Manipur has its own problem, Nagaland has its own problem, all the states, they have interstate, intrastate, intertribal. We have our own internal inherent problem within ourselves. So we are looking at a harmonious coexistence within the northeastern region. The Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, we are looking at owning up the responsibility in an effort trying to connect indigenous people so that we have a common platform. And this very essay, I think, competition is one of the stepping stones for the forum to bring in young people together, at least sharing their views. This will be one way how at least young people will join our organization with a view that we have a common problem. These common problems will have to be comprehended. These problems will have to be understood in a way we can collectively address. That was one of the purposes, the premise on which this particular forum was founded, Amrita.
Okay, very good points and interesting. And yes, you mentioned some of the challenges that the indigenous people of the Northeast faces. And regarding these challenges, do you think that the Northeast people are appropriately protected in terms of constitutional safeguards? And what have the forum done so far for the protection and the preservation of the Northeast cultures, indigenous cultures?
We would be having our general body meeting very soon, the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum. We have had in the past the general body meeting, and we continue to meet in the executive body meeting. Our stand, our belief is very firm. Any state or all the state in the northeastern region should have the capacity, should have its own mechanism to address the issue of foreigners coming from different parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The central government, they might have a mechanism. However, the state governments should have its own mechanism, should be empowered at least to establish its own law, so that, say for example, I cannot talk about Nagaland, I cannot talk about Mizoram, I cannot talk about Tripura because I am from Manipur. However, the initiatives that Mizoram has taken, the initiatives that the Nagaland state has taken, those are the initiatives from which people from Manipur can learn. Now, when the Manipur government cannot identify or does not have a mechanism to regularly check who are the infiltrators coming, who are gradually coming and settling down, and they wake up one day after 10 years saying that a lot of people have come, reflects its inability, reflects its own failure to check a system. Now, before it is too late, the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum would like to meet all the representatives of all the states to urge them, to request them that do not complain after 10 years from now that a lot of foreigners have come, lot of illegal immigrants have come into your states and settled. Now it is the duty of the state government, the people of Manipur, the people of Nagaland, the people of Assam, to ensure that the government, right from the SP, right from the DC, right from the SDO to SDPO, right from the OC, right from the village level.
Okay.
If you have a village council, you know who have come today. It is their duty to report to the nearest police station and say that Mr. IBUNGOCHOUBI has come from Burma, Mr. IBUNGOCHOUBI has come from this country. So it is the responsibility of every single citizen to apprise the administration that this is the population that has come, whether it is a permanent, whether it is in the form of a card that you are a foreigner. Now, if you are not given that, one day the system is so easy. You can bribe the bureaucrats, you can bribe the system, you can enroll yourself in the electoral roll, and Aadhaar today is just a simple process. You can send Aadhaar, which means it is very easy for a person who is determined to come into your state and settle down. We should have that mechanism to check. Precisely the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum up very late. However, we are saying that it is not late. Now we are also aiding. We are doing this youth program so that they are aware of their future. Today, the young people of Nagaland, for example, they are working hard. However, when they are working hard, at the same time, there are 1,000 infiltrators from some other country. Now their right, their privileges, their opportunities will be deprived. This is a time for the youth to realize that their future is in danger. Henceforth, the political change has to come. And of course, I cannot say on behalf of Northeast indigenous peoples. These are my ideas or my opinions, which my friends also endorse in the forum. So we will be collectively working to impress upon the political leaders in all the states in the future to at least set up a mechanism within the administration of every state to ensure that their own domicile, their own residence are safe and secure, and their opportunities will not be deprived by the infiltrators, whether it is political, whether it is economic opportunities in every aspect, whether it is education. Of course, we should have the humanitarian point of view. However, we should think for our children. We should think for the next generation. Henceforth, the very topic that how would you preserve your cultural traditions is one way trying to prove, establish that you are an indigenous person of this very land. Now, if you come from some other country, if you come from some other world, which you might have a traditional value which is not accepted or not known in this very part of the country, like Nagaland, Manipur, you easily identify that this particular culture does not belong here. So, for example, if my son says that when I am born as a son, the very placenta among the Meiteis, it's very popular that when a child is born, if the child is a girl, you put that placenta in an earthen pot, Amrita, you know it or not, you bury that on the left side of your house, which is the northern part. Now, we always face our house on the east. All the Meiteis will have its house facing the east, which means right is the south and left is the north. North. Every young boy in the family, his placenta is buried in the right side of the house where I'm born. That is my root. So I know that my part of my body, which came from my mother, is buried in the very compound that I stay. Now, these are some indigenous cultures that our children should know, that identifies our culture, right from marriage, right when you are born. So every community, the indigenous people, it is the duty, the honest responsibility of the youth to know their own traditional values, which would identify themselves as the indigenous people of that particular soil. And they should not only, they should individually promote. That is the basic ethos, the premise on which the essay was initiated, Amrita.
Okay, interesting points. IBUNGOCHOUBI, you mentioned the various challenges from foreign infiltrators, because who will be coming in from another society and mixing into our society, and thus impacting the traditions that we naturally have. And on that note, besides the challenge of these infiltrators mixing into our society, our younger generations are also faced with this fast-paced modern currents that are working against the preservation of our indigenous culture. So what kind of advice would you give to the younger generations to preserve as well as be a part of the own identities that we are born in on that note?
Amrita, I think I will not be that old enough to give advice, because an old man should advise. I think I am still in the middle age, so I am a part of that generation, the connecting generation. But honestly, though I have crossed 60, I do not fall into that age group who would advise in the community, because there are many elders. But as I have seen from my childhood, because every decade we see the change. We never believed that such a thing called mobile would come. The modern science. Now I am talking to you from a place called Difubar in Nagaland, and I am talking to you live in Manipur. I mean, this would have been never possible. What I am saying is, would such modern philosophies, modern developments would destroy our culture? That is a moral dispute, and very simple. Now, would such devices, would such modern technologies kill our own culture? This is the responsibility that our youth should own up. That is what our appeal is.
Okay.
Let me give you one example, Amrita. We are very proud of Lai Harauba. I mean, we Meiteis are very proud of Lai Harauba. And it was very fortunate. I'm just giving you one simple example. I was a script writer of that very Lai Harawa, which was supposed to be a documentary film. And we went to that village. There was a Lai Harawa, and my presence was not necessary because I was a script writer. The director was there, the cameraman was there. But since I was a script writer, I was also invited to go, and I wanted to see the Lai Harawa process right from beginning till the end. When the Lai Harawa was started, there was a musical instrument called a clarinet. You know what a clarinet is?
Yes.
And there was a drum. There was a side drum and a main drum in the Lai Harawa, in that Lai Harawa. And in the process, my conscience did not approve of the instruments being played in the Lai Harawa.
Okay.
If that was a Lai Harawa, that you know, the the traditional instrument would have been there, because we are talking of 3,000 years of say 4,000, 5,000 years of our ancestors. Now, if we are trying to say that this Lai Harawa has been there for the last 3,000 years or 1,000 years, whatsoever it is, I would believe that the instrument should be our indigenous instrument.
Okay.
There was a huge moral conflict, professional ethics, and a debate on that very day. So I requested that the village authorities, that when I am making a film, when I am writing a script for the Lai Harawa, you are using a drum which is post-colonial, the arrival of the World War, and around the second, you know, when the instrument, the clarinet came to Manipur much later than our Manipur civilization. So this is a moral conflict that we as a youth should understand. For me now, though the United Nations said that the youth should be below 24, though I am 60 plus, I am thinking as a youth today. Okay. Because my mind should still be in that youthful thinking. If we allow our Lai Harawa and in the Laibo, if we allow the modern instruments, you know, we have the langden, which is a drum. We should play that. You know, we might have pena, which is our traditional. Now you are using a modern instrument, which is in fact damaging our culture. This is something that I understand as a Maitai in Lai Harawa, in the Laibo Chongba. There are lists of things that I have experienced as a writer, as a journalist, in my professional career. There are thousands among other things that I want to highlight, but of course we are having a very short conversation. The purpose of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum is to understand that our youths are tomorrow's leaders.
Yes.
Unless they are the agents for the change, as the World Indigenous Day theme, they said that youth should be the agents of self-determination. Self-determination means our own culture, our own livelihood, our own everything, which also includes our cultural ethos, the native culture. So the United Nations, the World Indigenous Forum, they have given the responsibility to the youths to take on that responsibility. And as a member of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, as a Secretary General, I am just implementing the decision, or we are implementing a decision which was taken or resolved in our Itanagar executive meeting, that we should have an essay writing competition with the theme that today the youth should be responsible, and they should define the role of youth in preserving and promoting our native and cultural traditions in this modern world, which directly threatens the culture. So now I hope our young people, they know their culture, they have the liberty to educate themselves, they have the liberty to use all the electronic devices, including the handset, the mobile, the IT and everything. Our humble request or a suggestion today, as a member, not as a member of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, but as an indigenous person of this very land, the very soil, our humble request to the young people today is, it is their responsibility to ensure that our own culture survive, and their children, their grandchildren should not blame us today that our elders did nothing for us. One day they will not know their roots and their culture. I think this is the very theme of the World Indigenous Day, that youth as the agent for that determination. So we are understanding the global issue, and the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum from all the states we have endorsed this competition, and I hope that we would invite the young people. We would be happy, and through your channel, I am very grateful that you are inviting me to share this very philosophy.
Interesting, very good point. So, IBUNGOCHOUBI, as you mentioned Lai Harauba, and I would also like to take that as an example to highlight some of the points. Because Lai Harauba as a tradition that we honor and preserve and even observe in Manipur is we have this Kanglei Lai Harauba, which is observed in over 100 plus Umang Lai shrines, and we observe it as in the form of, it goes on as 3 days or 5 days or 7 days, and there are various things that we cannot skip. Some of the things include that really happened in those times, in the earlier times, was sacrificing of animals, which then with the evolution of cultures, people then changed their sacrificing to vegetables, so that some of the cultures remain intact, but then again nobody is harmed. So is there any way that some of the traditional cultures, even though while preserving it, that we can evolve it in such a way that it lives in harmony with the modern times? What are your thoughts on that?
Amrita, the last since I was given the responsibility as a spokesperson first for the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, I have had the privilege of traveling length and breadth of the northeastern region except Sikkim. Sikkim, of course, I have visited personally on my personal capacity, but very fortunately, as a part of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, I have been part of the tour with my team, our team, length and breadth. Right. And I have been here in Dimapur for the last almost 3 years as my first stop. Very fortunately, I have been invited to many occasions in Nagaland because I also, since I am from Sainik School, many of my classmates are from Nagaland. Those days we used to have students from all the states, Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura, Nagaland, Mizoram, Meghalaya, in those days in the 70s and early 80s. So I have many friends. So I come here for social functions. The last 2 years, some of my friends whose children were getting married, they have a huge moral, cultural contradiction, because Nagaland is a beautiful place where you have beautiful traditions of textures, designs, motifs, and their music. It's wonderful, and the Nagaland, the state of Nagaland itself. Since I'm in Nagaland, I would talk about Nagaland. It is called the state of festivals. In fact, the Hornbill Festival is just a sample museum, but throughout the year, 365 days, Nagaland is a state. Every day there is some kind of a gathering in every single corner, and that is the only occasion where the children have an opportunity to know their roots in some way. And by the progress of the civilization, some senior people feel that they are being threatened. I would come down to that point, Amrita, because it is the conflict, it is the value that some young friends of mine in Nagaland would like to preserve their traditional values. The kind of mass embrace of Christianity has taken place in the state of Nagaland. Right. I would say that almost plus 90% are Christians. However, some would like to retain, maintain, and preserve their cultural, traditional values, their tribal values. So that is why you see in Hornbill Festival the kind of roots that they would like to tell the rest of the world that these are our ancestral values. The bridal dress, for example, some of my friends said that I would like my daughter to wear the traditional dress, which sometimes they have to go to the church, because in that modern gown as a church would prevail, which some of my friends say that this has nothing to do with our tradition. This is foreign imported culture, despite the religion. You can be a Christian, you can be a Hindu by wearing your own traditional dress. This is the philosophy of some young Naga youths. So they said that, uncle, sir, when I get married, I would like to wear my traditional dress. This is the ethos. Now they are coming back. Now this is a moral debate that some young people are expressing to me. So winter the winter season is a very common season for the marriages. So the debates of the confluence of the debates as to how during such marriage seasons how your roots can be reflected. I think this is one of the very pertinent issues that is coming to me whenever I meet them. I met some very young couple very recently. They said, "Sir, uncle, I'm wearing this traditional dress in my marriage because this is how I identify myself as a Sema or a Sumi. I identify myself as an Au, Angami, Chakasang, Lotha, Konyak, Tamchanger. There are 16 tribes in Nagaland. So the way they wear in the traditional dresses, they identify themselves in that occasion. Henceforth, our objective of this essay competition, we would like the youth to be an agent for their own culture. So we are asking, how would you as a youth play the role to preserve and promote the indigenous traditional values right from birth till death, which I think the anthropologists or the sociologists call that a life cycle. The moment we are born till we die, it is a life cycle. But some people have their traditional values right from the conception. And even after death, there is a ceremony or there is a ritual after 3-4 days. So life cycle does not only mean from birth till death.
Right.
Round a year, we have some traditional values. These are the things that identify themselves as the indigenous people of that very soil on which they live. So I suppose the consensus of all my friends of the Northeastern region, Northeastern Indigenous Peoples Forum, including all the state chapters, they have strongly viewed that this essay writing competition is one of the beginnings, one of the most important steps of the forum. And I request the youth who are your viewers to at least take part in the competition.
Okay, and also on that note, IBUNGOCHOUBI, there is one more question that I would like to ask you, that regarding our preservation of our cultures, and most of the cultures, it permeates us in our clothing, in our attire, in the way that we speak, in the way that we conduct ourselves with other friends, and even from birth to death, of course. And regarding this, is there any room for flexibility? And why I ask that is because there are two kinds of people who want to preserve the cultural tradition. One type is one who wants to promote it. And also in order to promote our culture, sometimes we do need to make some changes for the other audiences who do not belong to our communities to try to appreciate us. And for that, we need to make it palatable for them in terms of music or even in dresses, in the way that we even perform our dances. And there are also some kind of people as purists and who completely condemn any kind of mix-ups. So suppose a person from Mumbai, a Marathi person, let's say, and she wants to wear the beautiful cultural attires of Manipur, let's say, of the bridal dress of Manipur, of a Meitei Nupi. And there are people who want to condemn a person of another community wearing our dress. And also there are kinds of people who want to promote it. So is there no room for any flexibility in this? Because I also want to touch upon one point that regarding our Lai Harauba Maibi Jagoy. The Maibi Jagoy in its pure form that is performed in the Laibo, it's very different from the dance that we see on stage that is known worldwide. And that dance has been choreographed in order for it to be more attractive to viewers, and it also gives a certain feel to the viewers. So that is the Maibi Jagoy that the world knows, but the true Maibi Jagoy is in fact very toned down version. So is there no room for improvement or flexibility in order to promote our cultures to the Western or the worldwide global audience?
Amrita, there is no limit for creativity. There is no limit for artistic vision. There is no limit for the human philosophy. In fact, you said the profound reflection of the nature, it comes in the way of the art forms. However, there are certain rituals that is our tradition.
Okay.
When you want the Maibi Jagoy for a platform, for a stage, now as long as that 1 minute, 2 minute, 10 minute in the concise form of what happens for 5 hours or 4 hours in our Laibung, we need to have a creative and plus the choreography which is presentable for an audience
Right.
as an art form. And as an art form,
Mm-hmm.
ritual is a different. For example, if you have a Ras Leela if you have a Ras Leela on the stage, which will have to be only for 15 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but if the Ras Leela right from Nupa Pala till the end, it lasts for 6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now there has to be a creativity, there has to be an art form to be appreciated and to be presented. Our traditional values will have to be retained and maintained, and within the framework, not by distorting the basic values. Because I also had been a very serious critic when young people perform on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for example, when you dance, say Laima Jagoi, whatever it is, there are certain ways that we perform and we see in our laibungs or in our sumangs or whatever it is. That pristine form should be maintained on the stage.
Okay.
Just to please the eyes of the audience, you cannot distort, you cannot so-called dilute that traditional values. This is our perception, this is my perception.
Okay.
Say for example, if you want to perform say Ras Leela or whatever it is, I was very much against the use of Ghungru in the Ras Leela.
Mm-hmm.
Say for example, to please the audience for the outside,
Mm-hmm.
Ras Leela in 10 minutes you can have some of the tenets of that dance form as accepted by our gurus. Now you cannot borrow some of the things for the viewers, for the audience. No, this is of course this is a long debate
Of course.
because I also I was groomed as a young writer. When I started my journalism, I started my career as a critic for the arts,
Okay.
particularly Manipuri dance and things. I started my career as a writer, as a critic for the performing art in Manipur.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very deeply involved in the Ras Leela, the Laihraova, among other things. And I have my own perspective, which is subject to correction and subject to debate. However, my perception is whenever you bring it on the stage, you are not there to either dilute
Mm-hmm.
or to corrupt the system or to kill our culture. You are to reflect our values, at least the values on that stage. However, as I said, creativity should not be limited.
Okay.
However, creativity should have its own framework.
Mm-hmm.
Should have its own framework. When you have a compound, a good football player has to play within the lines, isn't it, Amrita?
Right.
If you are a good football player and if you play beyond the line, it's an out. It's a wide. Now, if you are a good football player team, you have to play within that boundary, within that ground. Likewise, even for an art form, there should be a social norm where you have to be within that norm. And those norms are trends that socially accepted. And of course, creativity, art form, these are very debatable issues and challenges for the people. However, our Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, we urge that the motifs, the textures, the song, the music that we have inherited from our ancestors, we should protect. Say for example, I would say that there are certain textures, there are some motifs that every tribe would have. And in fact, if you come to Nagaland and when you attend a function, the jackets that you wear, the young boys wear, you will see all the beautiful motifs of their respective tribes, which has a meaning of its own.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those earlier days were stitched by hand. Now it has come in the form of a sewing machine. Now it has come in the form of a computerized machine. It comes very easily. Now the system changes, but the essence remains.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is, even in this modern world, there must be ways and means, a premise on which we preserve, we promote our own culture. If I am using a sewing machine, it does not mean that I should destroy the damage, I should damage the motif. If I am using a digitally designed printer, it does not mean that I should destroy the motif and spoil. Suppose Ao, Angami, Sumi, Zakasang, they have their own beautiful motif. And that could be hand woven, that could be machine woven, that could be computerized, printers, movers, but the essence remains. Now, as a youth, when you play the role of a youth, please ensure that the basic issues, the basic things are preserved and promoted. That is the basic appeal from our forum.
Okay, interesting, very good. And on And also, well, I would like to come regarding this preservation in the form of a digital library. I think a few years ago, I have also come across one library that is known as Traditional Knowledge Digital Library. I think that consists a lot of varied forms of art, our garments, information on our food habits, information on even medicine, because traditional knowledge have a very rich medical knowledge, even from a small fever to even how to deliver children to childbirth. So, what about if we? What do you think on compiling a digital library or a very comprehensive library that contains all of such knowledge, so that is easier for the youths to look into it and to read upon them for themselves. And also there is also conflicting schools of thought regarding which is the truth, which is the true culture, which is the true tradition. So by clarifying all of those conflicting schools of thoughts, and what about preserving such libraries in a compiled and comprehensive manner?
Amrita, I would recall that the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, we had discussed the documentations of various traditional values. May it be treatment, may it be the harval, may it be the so-called textiles, whatever it is, the indigenous component of our lifestyle, we have already taken a decision to document. It is a long process, but we have decided that anything that we see today, which might be missing some other day, the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, in principle, we have agreed upon among all our co-chapter members that we would move forward to document, to preserve our values, whether it is digital format. Say, for example, the Manipur chapter, we would be requesting our Manipur University to preserve and have a documentation department. We would be approaching the Nagaland University, we would be approaching the so-called different institutes or institutions in respective states in the longer run. In fact, I am so happy that you reminded this very issue. I would definitely put forward this proposal to the relevant forum, relevant platform of our Northeastern Indigenous Peoples Forum, which you have pointed out that we should initiate digital library of our existing so-called motif or the textures. We had already decided. I think in our next meeting, taking a cue from this discussion, I would take a personal interest, and then, in fact, I told you that all the members of our forum had in principle agreed in the past that we would have a documentation. We are to approach a government, or we are approach to which department we should approach. We will take up the initiative as a facilitator to ensure that our children will not be deprived of the design. Let me tell you one more thing, Amrita.
Sure.
Some years back, subject to correction, there was a rumor or there was a news item that basmati rice.
Right.
Basmati rice was grown in a country called United States or somewhere.
Right.
And the company that planted the basmati rice in USA, they took the patent right of that particular rice called basmati. Now, similarly, patent is a very serious issue today, and patent has its own merits and demerits. However, a particular civilized and developed country trying to claim that the basmati rice is theirs, patented, in such a challenge, in such a view, we are very, very backward in terms of digital world, in terms of modern science. If our motifs, if our so-called designs are to be taken away by some other people and having taken as a patent somewhere, it would be a disaster. So I think there are many active people in Manipur, also in the entire Northeast, who are aware of such patenting rights, and I think they have moved different platforms, including courts, saying that patents is something intellectual property or something. These are very, very sensitive issues, and I'm sure my colleagues and my friends from the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, I think they were aware. They are aware. They are conscious that some of their traditional values say, for example, there are many herbal values. There are
Right.
traditional treatments. Some can even have a scientific proof whether those are genuine or useful. So, if our ancestors had been living in that lifestyle, there are many scientific things that prove that these are redundant or these are harmful or good. Some those are good. I think they should be retained in terms of our values. Many herbs have disappeared, and in fact, the environmental seriousness, consciousness is also an important role that the youth should play. And what you say is the climate change, so-called, is a role that our youth should take up. And I think the United Nations have given a big responsibility to the youth to ensure that their children are not deprived. And in fact, people say that what the tree that you are cutting, it is something that you have borrowed from your grandchildren. You think that you are cutting a tree because your grandfathers have planted. No, the concept is changing. The concept is changing. The tree that you cut is borrowing from your grandchildren, your son.
Right.
When you cut a tree, you should feel that you are borrowing from your grandchildren, which means you should pay it back. Cut a tree, plant tree. That should be the philosophy which we heard in our young days. And now I think there are many ways how indigenous people have the responsibility. Even if you look at the denuding phases, disappearance of forests in the entire northeastern region is a very sad thing. The other day, I was talking to one of my friends. You just Google and see. You just Google and see what is the role of the international so-called global mafia trying to destroy the forest in our region. It is a very sad thing. So indigenous young people should be worried about their younger generation. And this is how I hope the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum.
Right, indeed, you brought up a very interesting correlation between the environment and the people, because indigenous people of the Northeast, we cohabit with the forest and the wildlife of the region. And also on that note, I'd like to put up that the state bird of Manipur is Nongin, but how many Nongin can we see today? So that if we do not make it is our priority to preserve our wildlife, our environment, then possibly the bird Nongin will be extinct even, because it is very deeply correlated. And yeah, I think you brought it up, and I think that needs to, our viewers do really, I do hope that the viewers take this as a very important message, and of course to the younger generation. So as we come to the end, looking ahead, what are the plans and the future aspirations that the forum would like to do, and what are your parting remarks to our viewers?
Well, Amrita, a generation from the entire northeastern states, we came together in the year 2017, and I also was very fortunate to be a part of the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum. And in the Difubar convention, in the annual meeting, I was given the responsibility as the Secretary General. I am playing my part, and as I requested young people, that young people also should come out with a view, with an objective, with a promise that they should save our environment, they should save our culture, they should not only promote, they should not only preserve, they should also promote. So I would request young people should volunteer and join the forum, take on the responsibility as we retire. I think this is one of my humble appeals. The young people should come out and then give a hand, join the forum whenever you have time, understand the ethos of the indigenous people.
Right.
And in fact, you will be playing a very, very important role for the generations to come. I think that is my humble appeal through your channel, Amrita.
Thank you, and a beautiful remark as well. And IBUNGOCHOUBI, thank you once again for highlighting so many different aspects of indigenous cultures, and also highlighting the efforts and also all the events from the Northeast Indigenous Peoples Forum, who have been taking a lot of things to safeguard the needs and the wants and also the desires of the Northeast Indigenous people. So thank you once again for being with us in this special talk edition. Thank you.
Thank you, Amrita, for inviting me. Thank you.
And I would also like to thank our viewers for tuning in. We will be back with more exciting personalities from across all varied fields to talk, and in our special talk edition. And also we will be circulating the essay competition notification that the Indigenous Peoples, the Northeast Indigenous People Forum will be holding in this month. And I hope that our viewers do have a chance to participate. And that note, I'll be signing off. Have a good day.